Thank you, Million. In our last conversation, we have tried to, walk through your life from the early beginnings to your work experience to your education, and we also briefly discussed about Melka, the local NGO you founded in Ethiopia. We mentioned critical people along the journey. It was a very, very interesting discussion that we had, but we didn't finish it. So I really would like to thank you for respecting your word and making a time to do this second interview. So I'm really happy. I would like to start the questions from Afsa. How was the beginning of Afsa? What were the conversation that leads to the establishment of Afsa? Who were the people who co-founded Afsa? Can you go back and really tell us how Afsa came to be?
Yeah, I remember in 2008,
Mhm.
the African Biodiversity Network was organizing in October 2008 its usual annual meeting. So some of us, I mean, I'm a member of HEBIN and I was invited. And I remember there was Henk Obeling from Grain. Liz was there also from Gaia. They were very, very much active with HEBIN. I think they invited Mamadou Goita, Banguri, and Nimo Bassi. So Benguri came from Compass Africa, Nimo from Friends of the Earth Africa, and Mamadou Goita from Copache. I think that has happened after Nieleni. Nieleni was in 2007, I think. So we met there, and at the end of the meeting, they said, "Why don't we organize a small meeting among ourselves?" Because ABN has felt that ABN alone, as a network, would not achieve whatever we want to achieve in Africa in terms of advocacy, because there are a number of factors and the issues are varied and diverse, as you know. So we needed to come together. So we sat together, the four of us. I think there was Buru from ABN also. Zakari Makania was also there from ABN and me. And then we sat and we said, I think we need to start something. So we have agreed. We didn't call it ABN then. Same year, I think
Where
end
was
of
this conversation? Where did this
in
conversation
South
took place?
Africa.
In South Africa.
Yeah, in Eastern Cape in South Africa. I don't remember the place exactly where it is. Same year, I went to for a CBD for a convention on
Biological
biological
diversity.
diversity
Yeah.
meeting in Bonn. And when I was there, we knew that Mamadou would go. So the agreement among ABN was for me to talk to Mamadou, and we organized something in 2009. So I talked to Mamadou in Bonn, and we decided to call a bigger meeting. Melka hosted the meeting in Addis Ababa in 2009. And in that meeting, I think around 12 other networks came. So we became bigger. It was a 3-day meeting. We had a lot of discussion on what to focus. We decided on the name Afsa, Plans for Food Sovereignty in Africa. And also we produced the Addis Ababa Declaration. And I organized a meeting, a visit to the palace
To the
to
Ethiopian Parliament.
President Girma. President Girma was happy to receive us. So we went to him and submitted the declaration. And, he's an environmentalist, as you know. He was an
Mm.
environmentalist. I worked with him with the president when I was a high school teacher. He knew me from there. So the president was happy to receive us and received the declaration. And ABN started, And that time, the advocacy coordinator of ABN was Anne Maina.
And mine from Biba,
Yes,
Kenya.
from and now she's Biba Kenya. So Anne was organizing the yearly meeting. So in 2010, I think there was a meeting in Zambia, and the discussion was in food sovereignty. One of the key elements in food sovereignty is culture and the cultural appropriateness of food. So
Mhm.
what does that mean? There was an in-depth discussion around that. 2011, two meetings have happened, and the strategy development exercise has happened in Nairobi, at Langata, Wangari Maathai Center, Langata.
Yeah.
So we had that meeting. John facilitated the meeting. The coming of John is important also because later on, as you know, John is one of our member
Yeah.
now. an honorary member. And most of the facilitation that John did was pro bono. You know,
Wow.
he was happy to facilitate. He was one of the best facilitators, as you know. So the decision was to launch Afsa in South Africa at Durban during COP17. So initially, the problem has always been language.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I did understand that when we had a number of members of AFSA. If you put the members on the map of Africa, largest number of AFSA members came from Western Africa. Interestingly,
Yeah.
because the civil society movement, social movement in West Africa is very ripe, so language was an issue. Every time we meet, language is an issue. It's a very, very critical. And because of the influence, the English influence and the French influence is different in Africa, as you know.
Mm.
The French influence goes to cultural, to your way of thinking, even.
Yeah.
How they colonize your mind much more
Yeah.
than the British. That's what my reading tells me. So, now it's very smooth, because we play and we work with these two languages. But that time it was very much difficult. So Durban, we were hosted by
By watch?
BioWatch. Actually, yeah, we were
Yeah.
hosted by BioWatch during they selected the place. Organized the women farmers of BioWatch came and they sang, and we launched Eben in 2011. Now Eben has what looks like a
Afsa.
strategy.
Afsa.
I mean Afsa, sorry.
Yeah.
Afsa has now a strategy. We have an objective. There were some principles drawn.
Mm.
We are against this and we are for this kind of thing. So it has started taking a shape.
Yeah.
A very good shape.
Why
But
did
still,
you name it Afsa?
Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. I think very good question. I think it has come through the influence of the Nyeleni movement, because that time, that meeting in Mali at
Mm.
Nyeleni, they have agreed on what the principles of food sovereignty are.
Yeah.
It has started much longer time ago, and there was a clear distinction. Not a clear distinction, I would say now, knowing what food security is, but there is an understanding of what food sovereignty is and what food security is. And since AFSA is a political organization,
Okay.
it's a social movement. It's very much important that we as our principle food sovereignty and food security, because food sovereignty critiques, the what do you call the control of food, the control of land, the control of water, control of seed. It
Yeah.
critiques that. It starts from the vantage point that the world food system is under the control of your actors.
Hmm.
So food is not a commodity. Now it's a very simple word. Food is not a commodity.
Yeah.
When you say food is not a commodity, the direct translation is people have to eat food because before it's sold outside of that country. That's it. So food is for people. If you have excess, if you produce more than that, you can export. That's fine. But
Mm.
the priority is you people. Food
Mm.
is for people, not for sale. It's just in opposition to market-led agriculture.
Yeah.
You know, so food can come. In food security,
Mm.
food can come from anywhere, but you have to be. What you need to be is food secure. Food
Yeah.
sovereignty says you have to produce your food, you have to control your food. Even when you produce your food,
Yeah.
you have to produce it by respecting the environment,
Environment.
your
Yeah.
mother.
Yeah.
So there is that emphasis,
Yeah.
emphasis of protecting nature, caring for nature, which goes to agroecology.
Yeah.
So you have to produce alongside with nature or in play with nature. And food should not be a commodity. It has to be under the control of farmers, and food marketing and whatever should also be under the control of the farmers themselves, those who produce it.
Yeah.
And countries have an obligation also to make sure that the people eat. That's where it tallies with the right to food also.
Yeah.
So that's why we called it food
Food
sovereignty,
sovereign.
Alliance
Yeah.
for Food Sovereignty in Africa. So
What happened
that
after
was,
Durban? Yeah.
and after Durban, the beauty of AFSA is we managed to meet every year.
Yeah.
and you can't lessen the role that the African Biodiversity Network played in this. Because the African Biodiversity Network was raising funding for Afsa to meet every year, at least up to 2012,
Yeah.
So in 2012, we met in Techiman, Ghana. The Ghana meeting was significant for probably two, three reasons. One reason is that's where we agreed on what is on a constitution. It is
Oh,
not a refined and detailed constitution as it is now. But then we agreed on a constitution that we signed, I think, 14 networks. So we, the 14 networks of decided to create AFSA and whatever. We formalized it. The second importance is my role now has changed because they have asked me to represent them with the African Union. I was living in Ethiopia
in
then.
Ethiopia, in Addis. Yeah.
They said that, well, on one side, you can say the director of Malka and whatever, but on the other side, you should say that you are a representative of AFSA. So you should be part of. You should formalize our relationship with the African Union because you are living in Addis Ababa, where AU is headquartered. So I said, fine, there's no problem in producing a newer business card. But when I went back and when I told to my network, and they said that, why don't you coordinate it? I think because at time Anne stopped coordinating, being an advocacy coordinator for
And
ABA.
for Eben. Yeah.
Yeah, and her role of coordinating, facilitating AFSA has
These
stopped also.
meetings.
So
Yeah.
they asked me and they said, they didn't ask me to be their coordinator. They only said that no, I should represent them. But they said, why don't you ask them? So I wrote to the members, to the 13 of them, and I've asked them whether they would be happy if I coordinated. And they said, yeah, fine, it's no problem. So it started, not formally yet, but I said, okay, if I have given this opportunity, I have to call the first and bigger meeting for ABA in 2013. So we had no money. You know how we operate. We just decide
Taking
when
from
to
here
have the
and there.
meeting, and the money would come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Fortunately, some of the organizations who are still with us, like Bread for the Well, Tudor, I think 11th Hour didn't come then. In with some of the institutions. I wrote to them and said that we are going to organize this meeting in August, on this day, this is the reason, They said, okay. Again, the money was going directly to ABN because we didn't have our account.
Account.
I'm going to be in the first staff. Still not staff, but in Melka. By the
Yeah.
way, we have to recognize the role of Melka also. Melka played because all the telephone communications, email communications, and time. Even later on, when we had communication, the first communication for Afsa, he was sitting in in the office and whatever. So Melka has contributed quite a lot at
Mm.
the earlier stage. We have to recognize that also. So came, the really, really good group of people came to Addis Ababa. And
2013.
2013, the fundamental thing has happened then, which is again John facilitating. We said everybody was asked to come up with their own idea. They posted their idea on the wall. We regrouped them, and out of that, 4 groupings were created. This working group idea came, So there was an agroecology working group, making agroecology, no, making case for agroecology was a group. Communication came out as a group. You had a number of people by then. Now you are
Yeah.
also
No, before. Yeah.
the working group for and one for land grab. That time there was a lot of
Land issues.
advocacy and
Yeah.
a lot of publications, a lot of news around land grabbing because there was big land grabs at that time. So the land grab group and a seed group. So there were 4 working groups were created, and institutionally a board was started there. The first board was elected. And that board sat with me and they said, okay, you're going to be officially the coordinator of AFSA, you're going to get this amount of money, and, your responsibility is to register AFSA somewhere. So look for a place to register. Yeah. So this kind of decisions came. slowly but surely. And we need a strategy now, an AFSA, full-fledged strategy. So you have to develop that also. So okay, and we wanted to register AFSA in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, but the condition was not right because in Ethiopia at that time you cannot register a network, if you remember.
Yeah, because of the new civil society law.
Regulations with whatever. And the second reason was money can come to Ethiopia, but it cannot come out, in dollars. So it's still the problem to some extent. So we wanted to register it in Kenya, but the Kenyan government was also a little bit uneasy. There was uneasiness between the Kenyan government civil societies. So our Kenyan partner said, no, 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 no. Kenya is not
Yeah,
good now.
their own fight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to look for another place. So Hakim Balirani, the previous chair of AFSA, said we can register it easily in Uganda. So the first face-to-face meeting in 2014, we had it in Uganda. And that meeting, we decided to formalize Afsa. We opened a bank account. We registered it as a company by guarantee. Afsa was registered officially in Uganda, and we hired Bridget because we needed a staff there.
Yeah.
Bridget was happy to be hired. We hired her, and she was tasked to form an office and look for a finance person. Before
Wow.
this meeting, also, I think we had a strategy meeting in Southern Africa. I think Mariam Mayet was there then. I don't remember. John was there, and we developed a draft strategy
Strategy. Yeah.
which the board has endorsed it.
Mhm.
And we negotiated also with Bread for the Wallet for more funding, and they have agreed. She was Ulrike was at that time. Some individuals, even if they are funders, are very critical, you see,
Yeah.
because they need to see which
The
direction,
vision.
and
Yeah.
then yeah, they support you. And
Mm.
Tudor was, as usual, with us, and a number of funders also were attracted to what we're doing because our communication started to increase. I think each of the working groups became very much active. The case for Michael did a good work then to collect case studies from all over Africa with a group. They edited it and they were published in our website that we've created. Agroecology, the boldly future of Africa book was
The
was
book was, yeah.
yeah, printed, and
Slowly it took off. Yeah.
slowly, and we formalized how members should get accepted by AFSA. Membership started to increase, but the main and important thing is we kept on meeting every year,
Every year. Yeah.
and because of that, a core group of AFSA members were created. This was increasing.
The story.
15, Mariam and me went to Milan for a meeting. While I was there, I think the meeting was on food systems. Food system, what's the importance of food systems, or whatever. And that same year, 2015, it's Stockholm. In Stockholm is a big meeting of people who think about food systems.
Mhm.
So I was invited to speak there. And so an idea came and said, why don't we start a food system meeting in Ethiopia? So instead of doing it by ourselves, why don't we invite others? So we invited Bivat,
Yeah.
Bivat came in. We invited also the Organic Network of Africa, and they came. And with Makale University, we organized a big meeting on food systems, African food systems, what we do. There was a very seminal meeting because at this meeting, we have identified the narratives against our food system. These narratives are very, very much critical. So the meeting identified these narratives. That was a major outcome of that meeting. And the meeting has decided to have this biennial, the food system conference biennially.
Oh, it started then. Yeah.
Yeah, in Addis Ababa in 2016. The biennial meeting
Yeah.
has started.
So these biennial the meetings have continued until now. I mean, every 2 years,
Yeah, even if
AFSA have
next year,
the food system. Yeah.
yeah, I think that we had our fifth
Yeah.
Para 6, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26. The 6 would be happening next year
Yeah.
in one of the African countries. Every 2 years, and it was really great. And again, I think in 2016 or beginning of, I'm not sure whether I'm jumping quite a lot of things,
No, you're good. You're good.
but I just wanted to explain
Yeah.
where the source of some of the activities, I think earlier also in 2013, 14, especially in Mariam Mayet played a huge role in strengthening the seed working group.
Mm-hmm.
So SCB and Afsa were organizing very, very critical meetings in Kenya, in different places in Africa. And out of that came a very, very, very much important work on farmers' management system,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that was very, very much important, the farmers' management system. And Famara and Michael also played, a very, very good role on that. Again, I think in 2016, John was participating in a training on biofertilizers
Mm-hmm.
in the UK, and he was coming and telling. So there was a meeting, I think 2016, 17, I don't remember very well. And it's on carbon, soil carbon.
Mm-hmm.
On soil carbons, the idea is if you really enrich your soil, the soil will have carbon, and possibly you can trade that carbon. And at that meeting, which ended with is a kind of a fight with civil society and those who organized, because we say that we don't increase the carbon content of the soil just for trading. This is the life of people that we are talking about. So people increase the carbon in the soil as part of their lifestyle, in agroecology. There
Yes.
are other so many reasons than carbon trading. So that has happened. Two door, no, two door. The three of us met, and we have agreed to organize a training for African farmers on biofertilizers. And the agreement was, for Tudor to cover the funding. So we brought farmers from 16 African countries, and they came and were trained by somebody who was training John and others. He's a
Mm-hmm.
Colombian, he's very good. A 5-day training, because this is the origin of the healthy soil
How?
and healthy food group.
Oh, really? Okay. That's how it evolved. Yeah.
That's why. So the training has happened in 2017, and the farmers loved it. So they went back and started to implement it. It's not usual for farmers to come to train and go back and do it and asking for more and whatever. So we were very much excited. So we started to raise more funding and organize a meeting training in different countries. So somebody comes and they go and do the training. So out of that, the healthy soil and healthy group started. Now combined under the
With the
land.
land working.
And in the same year, 2017, mainly through the initiative of Sena Luca.
Mm-hmm.
Sena was very much interested that Afsa starts a climate working group. So we had a very, very small group sat together and they said, yeah, let's start. The 2017 meeting was very much important because that's when we decided that agroecology is cross-sector. Everybody should work for agroecology. We shouldn't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
agroecology working group. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And communication, why should we have a communication?
Education working group. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also cross-sector. So communication group was picked out, and two new groups were formed. One was the climate working group, and the second was called then the consumer working group.
Mm-hmm.
And the initiative came also from Amadou.
Amadou
Amadou.
Khan. Amadou.
So they were very much interested to start the citizen working group, and the citizen working group started.
Yeah. So by
Uh,
2017, we have 4 working groups:
four
land,
working groups
climate, seed,
and
and
climate.
citizen,
Yeah, yeah,
and the consumers, which later
yeah,
became a citizen. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. But hovering, in all of this is the healthy food, for example. It was not very well combined yet at that time.
Now, maybe for our audiences, can you give us how does it operate? How do working groups work? Is it member constituted? How do we choose members? Is it a working programs of Afsa? Just to give a general picture of what working groups are.
Working groups are mainly initiated by members themselves.
Hmm.
You've reminded me of something. That's a very good question because from the beginning we decided that AFSA should not have a big secretariat.
Hmm.
Because for many networks, when you have a big secretariat, then the secretariat becomes the network
Yeah.
instead
True.
of members involved. So we wanted to ensure members' active involvement in AFSA. The only way of ensuring that is by having these working groups. The seed working groups, every year they meet, every year they plan, every year they evaluate what they have done. Every year they decide on our advocacy agenda. That continues. The land working group meets every year. Citizen working group meets every year. Climate every year. So the members are engaged in that. That's why it's a vibrant working group. So the working groups are suggested by members. The members would take them up. They have a members leadership. Each of the working groups are led by members.
Hmm.
But we left them. The secretariat was not involved in the working groups before.
Hmm.
So, but after 2018, I'll come to that later. Then we said that I think we have to have somebody who supports them from the secretariat. One, if there are minutes, the minutes should be organized. And second, the secretariat will also understand what has happened in the working groups. Yeah. So that became the way things started to operate, and it has worked very well. Then, all the time, every 3 years there will be a board election. All throughout the year, that up to 27 or something, a continuous review of the constitution happens at that time by the board, and the members approve the constitution. So the formalization of Hafsa has continued. So that was a very, very important process also, to do these
Yeah.
things. And the number of staff kept on increasing. Each of the staffs who is joining GAFSA is also bringing their own addition to the work. What is important is also the clarity. The number of publication in AFSA has also very much increased. We do the research for us to understand the issues, and we write and we publish, and that has increased the profile of AFSA
Yeah.
uh, very much. I think in 2018, we organized two important meetings: one seed meeting and one the climate meeting. The climate meeting has resulted in the production of a strategy for the climate
Mm.
working group for the first time. A very clear strategy, a very clear working group, and we managed to raise funding for that, for that, and we have a strong group now for that. And the seed working group, actually, because of the meeting that we had that time, the seed working group is very, very much strong now because, as Famara told me, because of the outcome of the 2008 meeting,
Hmm.
now the seed working group has decided to work on vegetable seeds also. So these are forgotten. There are a lot of traditional
Yeah.
vegetables in Africa which are forgotten.
Yes.
So one meeting
Bring
brings.
some energy, some idea.
Yeah. But 2018 is also very much important for one reason. We have this. We had the second food system conference, food system celebration in, I think, in Senegal.
Mm. Yes.
Yeah, at a place, yeah, a little bit
Okay.
out of TS. That meeting was very interesting because we invited artists to organize that meeting for us. So the meeting was done through art, first meeting. And it was very, very much interesting. And two outcomes. One outcome was we decided to work on African food policy. So the decision to work on African food policy came out of that. The other is also we seriously evaluated the working groups there. They were really, really very weak at that time, and they decided to strengthen these working groups. And another important decision was on what to focus on advocacy. So there were two agenda. One was on pesticides, other was on climate. Then the climate advocacy got a much wider acceptance by them. 2019, this is just before COVID. Again, 2019, policy work got attraction because we started to work directly with the African Union. And in the annual general meeting that we had, where we changed board members, approved, I think, our constitution, revised constitution, we decided to work on a youth agenda. So the youth working group, the seed of the youth working group was planted.
Was planted there.
Yeah, and I credit also Zena for this. He was pushing for the youth group, for Afsa youth group to start. Then COVID came, 20. Interestingly, as you might remember, Afsa staff, we said that let's use this as an opportunity and strengthen Afsa. So we wrote to our funders and I've asked them whether we can use the money for online activities, online research and online meetings and whatever. And they said, yeah, that's good. So the Afsa working groups became very active then. Nobody's flying around.
Yeah,
People were sitting in their homes. So the land working group were meeting regularly. Every working group
yeah.
was meeting regularly.
Zoom was busy then. Zoom
It was a
meetings.
killer time for me. On average, I had 5 Zooms on average because everybody wanted to organize Zoom meetings, and I was invited into so many meetings,
Yeah.
and I had to speak at. But when in 2021, then we organized the first meeting during COVID. Two research were happening. One was on food policy, on
Mm.
food systems. And 27 African countries were doing a study on their country's food policy, whether there are policies, if they are there, what are they, their food policies, food agenda, as in water, culture, environment, climate, all
Yeah.
that. Um, and we had a research, and the climate working group was also doing a study and the seed in all of them. So in 2021, we organized a big meeting where we looked at the synthesis of all this research and also another research that has happened. Again, during Zoom time, we started to talk to the African Union through Zoom on the food policy. They themselves are nowhere to go. So
Yeah, they have a virtual advocacy
yeah,
thing going
well,
on.
we started to talk to them, and they said that okay, since no, we had the money. The money was for a physical meeting, but now we say that instead of physical meeting, why don't we do research? So we commissioned somebody, Mukute, and he did a fantastic research of all the policies of African Union, how much it focuses on food on food system as we know it,
Mm.
as
Mm.
we want. So that research and the research from the 27 countries was combined again and was presented in our meeting in 2021. It was a festive environment because people were coming from their hiding, because of COVID.
I remember.
So yeah, it was in Nairobi.
Mm.
Disappointment also, huge disappointment, because the African Union has promised to submit it to what they call the STC, the Special Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, and Energy, and they didn't put it on the agenda. So we're really mad, and we sent number of letters to the AU to complain. They ignored us. We're not
Yeah.
going to respond to you.
The tour
That's how
started.
things have started evolving, and we had also our the disappointment in 2013. They meet every 2 years.
Mm.
2013, we were prepared much better for the food policy agenda to be presented to the STC, the Special Technical Committee, and it was on the agenda. Suddenly, somebody decided to cancel it from the agenda. We were mad. For the first time, we have asked our members to sign on a complaint letter.
That
We
was
got,
in 2023.
yeah, 1,113. organizations and very few individuals signed. And the land working group, they were in Addis. So they printed it, stack of all the signatures, and the letter submitted to the African Union. I just
Yeah.
ignored us again. Nothing has
Yeah.
happened. So in 2022, so we had our celebrations in Cameroon, Central
Cameroon.
Africa. The
Yeah.
2018 meeting that happened in Senegal was supposed to be in Cameroon, but Cameroon there was conflict that time, so we had to do our 2022 in Cameroon. And the minister, agricultural minister, came, and a number of ministers were there, and the board changed also in Cameroon. Yeah, so yeah, I think there were some significant happenings that has happened in 2020. For example, the agroecological entrepreneurship work.
Mm.
That has come also out of our meeting in 2018. Remember talking about business and the role of marketing in agroecology. And if you want to promote agroecology, you have to also show the business side of it. So, how can we use the force of the market to promote agroecology? That was the question. And we organized the first meeting in 2022 in Uganda. It was very, very much important. And the second meeting has happened in Zimbabwe in 2004, for 24, and the third one probably next year,
Yeah.
somewhere with the food systems. That part of the work of Afsa is very much growing now. And what was interesting in 2022 again was in a meeting that I was facilitating in Uganda again. We were working with two individuals from the US, Gopal and his colleague, and we wanted to develop a strategy for the citizen working group in relation to food, a campaign agenda. So all that document is a document that we had, we collected it, and we sat together, I think about 20 something of us, and we did the structure of the campaign. And finally, we wanted the name for the campaign. And I think somebody from Zambia, she said,
Julia.
my food is African.
Yeah.
Oh, we like the name. So
Yeah.
that was the birth of the campaign called My Food is African. I think in 2000, the same year or next year, there was a big meeting in Benin, and the seed meeting. And that's when the Seed is Life campaign came out. Yeah, and another milestone progress during this time was, I think in 2022, 23, we were invited by the African group of negotiators
Hmm.
to a meeting on agriculture, to a meeting in Naivasha in Kenya. And they said, but we don't have money. So we raised our own funding, and we met there as a group. We went there as a group, 10 of us. And they were overwhelmed, all these people coming and talking about agroecology. The number of them have heard about agroecology, are distrust of civil society and whatever. So it was a tough meeting that we had. But we had a good rapport with the leader. And he was laughing and saying, oh, you go to, you challenged me.
Yeah.
Yes. But since then, we kept on meeting, kept on meeting, kept on meeting, and we praised agroecology. Finally, now, if you don't participate in their meeting, they would say, where are you? You should consider yourself as part of the African group of negotiators on climate. A number of countries have produced an agroecology strategy. So that ensures that agroecology is included in the document. I am following now, even if I'm not in Bela, some documents that they are discussing, and agroecology is there. You see?
Yeah.
Our influence on the African group of negotiators have influenced the G77 in China. It's a number of countries from Latin America and Asia, yeah, even China. So that was a very, very important progress also for
Yeah.
AFSA, our work with
Yeah.
African group of negotiators. And one important milestone for me is now AFSA is understanding another way of working, which is whenever we have a meeting on something, let's say on territorial markets, for example, what we have to do is alongside our members, we need to invite a government also from that same country. We use the same strategy in our chiefs meeting this year. So you invite the government and you invite also the civil society. At the end of the meeting, they go back and discuss what to do when they go back in their own country.
Yeah.
And some of them even develop a roadmap. So my understanding and Afsa's understanding now is country level process, country level work is important. Regionally, it is a vacuum. That's what we feel,
Yeah.
Now on agroecology and food sovereignty, Afsa is there at the regional level. But at the country level also, our presence should be felt.
Yeah.
That's why we are receiving more and more country networks,
Yeah.
as a members of Afsa, because country work is also very much
Very much
important.
important. Yeah. So I'm happy that we going through all the major happenings on each year since to establish AFSA. Can you tell us what was the purpose of establishing AFSA? And maybe along with that one, there is a classification of membership that I see on
Yeah.
the core members, associate members. Maybe you can also tell us the difference between those kind of classifications on AFSA membership.
If you ask me, personally, I used to be invited by a number of organizations to go to and speak international
Hmm.
meetings.
Hmm.
For example, the Heritage Bell Foundation invites me to New York to speak, to Bali to speak, and one organization will invite me. As a network, as a single network, as ABN, as an individual. And same is happening for all of us. So instead of promoting an agenda that we have agreed on as Africans, we are promoting not other people's agenda necessarily, but an agenda which was not the outcome of a group reflection, a group thinking.
It's true.
So we say that why don't we come together? One, we can do our own analysis. We can do our own research. We can do our analysis. We can also identify on what issue to advocate. So that was the most important thing. Let's come as Africans together. The majority of Africans, in some countries, more than 80%, in other countries, more than 40%. Anyway, on average, more than 70% of the population of Africa still lives on agriculture. The livelihood of the continent, that's the
Yeah.
economy of the continent, agriculture. And food system is very much important. And increasingly, as a result of the slave trade and colonization and neo-colonization, actors from outside in collaboration actors from the inside are controlling our food system. This you cannot counter separately. We have to come together. So that was a drive force for
Mm.
starting YAFSA. And this membership, when we started, the majority of them were uh, core members, meaning working in more than one African country. Majority, large majority, still now the majority. But later on, we had also some members in AFSA who
Mm.
are not working in more than one country, but who are based in their own country, but very good members, active members. And we say that let's create a category which includes them also.
Mm.
So that associate membership came in. And also there are some international organizations who are aligned with AFSA, with the principle of AFSA, and they expressed interest to work with that. They will not have a political decision mandate in the organization. They will not vote for board membership. They will not be elected in the board membership, but they will participate in the activities of AFSA, and from outside they will be members. So that became the third category. The fourth category came because of John Wilson. John, from the beginning of AFSA, he was facilitating so many meetings pro bono without any payment, and he's active. He's very active. He works. He writes. He consults. So we decided to give him ownership, an honorary member. And later on, Mamadou Goita is also, as I've told you, is
Yeah,
one
he
of the
was from
founders
the
of
very
AFSA.
beginning.
And he comes to a number of meetings of AFSA. When we ask him, he comes in the present, he does that. So many contributions to AFSA. And he was also instrumental in establishing, this Western Africa, Eastern Africa relationship very well. So we wanted to recognize that. And later we say that, what about the board members, when they leave their board membership, they serve as board members. They're not getting any salary or any benefit
Yeah.
by being a board member, but they work so very, very hard. This is a lot of work being a board chair, specifically board chair. So why don't we recognize the board chairs when they retire and whatever? Why don't they become honorary members? So we created four categories now.
I hope this will give a very broad and comprehensive overview of Afsa. Most people among us, they know who Afsa is, and they know the influence that we're having in shaping the discourses nationally, regionally, and internationally. But for you, when you look back all those years of evolving and the progress, what stood out for you most now? What is the most surprising thing for you, especially when you compare it from where it started and now? Which achievement, which progress strikes you the most? What is the most important and significant achievement as AFSA since its establishment?
Without any blowing the AFSA, without any exaggeration, AFSA is on the point of the spear, in terms of the agroecology movement. It's a very open and experimental network. I mean, let me give you an example, even for this year. Working with chefs, we are working with African chefs. We're thinking of expanding that, and we are thinking of or working to strengthen a chefs movement at the country level. People who are cooking African traditional food. So this would help revive. That's it. Working on cross-border trade. I don't know any other movement to do that. Cross-border trade on agroecology materials, on agroecological products. I don't know. Agroecological entrepreneurship. Well, as a regional level, there are a number of them working, even PLM, Uganda was working on agroecology, but at the regional level. Territorial markets. So is a pioneer on that work.
Mm.
Territorial markets in Africa. Financial flows into Africa. What is the impact of these financial flows on agroecology and agriculture? Huh? My Food is African, the campaign itself, where we combine celebration, food policy, a social movement for pushing for a food policy at
Mm.
African level. Huh? I think the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
Mm.
Everybody's singing about that agreement. There are also critics, but we went beyond and studied the impact of that on agroecological farmers,
Mm.
agroecological trade. Yeah, I mean that openness in experimenting, in opening the ways for exploring what agroecology is. These communities of practices that we are creating, there are agroecological practitioners all over Africa.
Yeah.
The healthy soil and healthy food brings these actors together. And we have created a relationship with India, Andhra Pradesh project, and exploring other relationship with others. Even on climate, working with the African group of negotiators, the way we work with them, intensively. I know Pakja is also working at that level. But on food systems, intentionally, I don't see it in so many places. So it's more than example. So, but I see it's very, very experimenting, open, yeah,
Mm.
and there's a lot of respect for us continentally and globally. I
Yeah.
must say,
And honestly, the strength also comes from our members too, like you
exactly,
said, all the successes that we're talking about, again, has
exactly,
come from the national movements that are happening on the ground. And
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Even the working group members, nobody's paid.
yeah.
Any success around seeds is the seed working group, the land working group, the climate working group. Now they use,
Like maybe that would be a very good transition for us. My next question is, as you know, in our recent, AGM, annual general meeting, the AGM has approved the new working group in AFSA, which
Mm,
is a youth working group.
yeah.
In 2024, we had 1,000 African Youth Summit in Addis. We were so excited in the meeting. You were one of the facilitators along with Sena. So that meeting was really very, very fascinating meeting. In a sense, we bring together all these young generations to Addis and created a platform for them to know each other, interact,
Mm,
network, and most of all, have a very clear understanding of what agroecology is and what food sovereignty is as a movement. So can you speak a little bit about the significance of use energy
mm.
in AFSA? Explain that significance and what you are expecting from use, and maybe conclude with the message that you have for African youth.
Yeah, I think since decided in 2019 to form this youth working group, even before that, it's very obvious that we all worry, especially those of us who have been in this world, this struggle for a long time. It's natural that people get old and leave the space, and you need to have people from the next generation to do much better than you, not to replace you, but do much better than you. And I can see that the youth are very, very vibrant, much smarter than us, when we're their age, probably engaged. So how do you bring that energy to bear upon a very, very critical agenda for this continent, which is food, the food system? So that was in our mind, and we organized the first meeting in Nairobi in 2023. And at that meeting, it was a very, very energizing meeting. I mean, there are a number of meetings that I go to, but this meeting energized me quite a lot. I did the facilitation, and I proposed it to them to organize 1,000 youth meeting. Which is, yeah, yeah, why not? Okay.
Mm.
The next that where is the money is
You
going to
start
come?
regretting what did I get myself into?
Where is the money is going to come? But I must say that from the office also, Ruth Simon especially, is a use in a fantastic energy, and a small group of youth were elected to drive this process. So we worked with them for over a year. They worked so hard, and they came from all over Africa. This youth group, a very smart, very, very, very dedicated youth group, and we organized that meeting, and it was very, very energetic meeting, as you have seen. 3 days, I had no idea how it went. But the core agenda here is how can we drive agroecology forward with the next generation as a lead. We from the back advising, so
Mm.
that in the coming whatever years, then they will take up the agenda and drive. But not like, oh, we like our agroecology, or because we said agroecology and they like us, and so
Mm.
millions say agroecology, it must be good kind of thing. But from the vantage of understanding, really understanding what we mean by agroecology. We are all still understanding agroecology. It's not an open end. That's why I love it. Every day I learn about
Agree.
agroecology and food sovereignty and all the associated concepts and practices.
Mm.
Every day is a learning day. But enough for them to say that this is the future of this continent. What is food sovereignty? Why do we fight food sovereignty? So if we could get um, a group of Africans from all over Africa, youth who really understand the issues, committed and dedicated and working for it. That will be a huge result. I think that's in the process of building.
Mhm.
One meeting in 2 3 years will not do it. But those who came to that meeting have given me a lot of hope. A lot of hope. If still that meeting we organized it with the Ethiopian government, they still talk about that meeting. Even the government was energized.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a meeting. But after that, I mean, the Afsa and a number of organizations organized also a seed training for some of them. The outcome of that meeting was also incredible. They understood seed and they loved seed, and they are now preparing to advocate for seed. Now, in the climate meetings, UNFCC, they come together, they plan, they organize, they do some things. But this kind of initiatives, at least for some years, require enormous amount of resources. We need resource. You need to organize. My dream, for example, somehow is to bring them either in Uganda or in one of the African countries. Not in meeting places or in halls. Big land, open land, building tents, and they stay for 2 weeks or something. And you organize every day a deeper level of discussion. And also, as a user, they have to enjoy, a lot of mixing so that they form a very, very strong relationship, they stay together so that they become leaders. So when they grow up, we no idea, they will become ministers and presidents. We don't know.
Yeah.
So at some point, I dream of that, taking them somewhere and then stay for some time, even for a month somewhere, where they go deep into what food sovereignty and agroecology is, and do some hands-on work also,
Yeah.
farming and whatever. But they come out much more enlightened
Yeah.
about what we want to do, and bringing a number of actors, critical actors, also to help them
Yeah.
navigate, the global, complicated and complex issues. So as Afsa, we are playing, and my message to them is get engaged, be part of the struggle. It's a very exciting learning space, but it's not also easy to some extent. There are a lot of challenges. The adoption of the release of the potential release of GMOs in Ethiopia is crazy. Every time I think about it, I feel mad about it.
Mm.
So in Ethiopia, we worked on that issue for a long time. We fought against that. Now it's happening. So there are some blocks, stumbling blocks.
Mm.
Okay? But yeah, and
That,
one of the reasons that propelled me to start this podcast also is that just to create an environment where they could learn. I think at least they could go back and listen to them.
yeah. I think now at least we can agree that they have the space in Afsa. They have their own working group, just like any other working groups in Afsa.
Yeah,
They kind of slowly evolve to where they are today.
yeah,
So it depends on their strengths to make it big.
yeah.
One of the big, most impactful working groups in Afsa,
Joyce has done quite a lot of work on this also. She's a
the board
board
member and the young, yeah.
Joyce under the tutorship of Nemo, Mariam Bassi.
Mm.
These are very important people. Yeah,
Yeah, Sena. We cannot
Sena,
mention uses with Sena. Yeah,
Sena.
Sena. The way he facilitated that meeting, I remember. The government people. They were asking me. Where is this guy? Where has he been? I mean, they were really fascinated about Sena.
Sena for this kind of
Yeah,
processes
yeah.
is a
He's
fantastic.
amazing. He's amazing. Okay, so now let's go to your the new podcast that we started at AFSA, the Battle for African Agriculture, which you are the host, and you invite critical people from all around the world, mainly focused in Africa, to discuss about the food systems. What propelled you? What interests you to start this new podcast, and what do you envision to discuss? What are the key areas that you want to address within this podcast space?
I think the main reason is one, myself,
Hmm.
the opportunity that I thought it would give me to learn about them issues,
Hmm.
which I was right when I listened to people that I interview.
Hmm.
It was a fantastic opportunity. It opened my eye for on so many things. While I prepare also, while I listen to these extraordinary people in their own field. So that's one thing. The second thing is I always feel that we as Africans, need to really engage with some of the issues much more critically
Hmm.
from the point of understanding. On some of the issues, our understanding can be limited. I think the reason that I started podcast is there are so many issues related to agroecology, food sovereignty, and also about the colonial history of Africa and the impact of colonialism and neo-colonialism on the food system that we have now. And I want to, for myself, I want to understand them, and also for others who are listening, also, I wanted to create an opportunity for them also to learn. And myself, after a number of interviews, I could see that my level of understanding on this issue, on the issues that I was working over 2 decades,
Hmm.
needed an improvement. So it was very much important that I did these interviews and I understood quite a lot, and I learned quite a lot. But the people who are listening also to this podcast are appreciating that. Let me give you one example. Maybe, I don't want to take the credit for it or the podcast for it, but I suspect. For example, the first four podcasts was on UPOV 91
Hmm.
on seed issue. UPOV 91 is a draconian framework, which is enforced on some African countries and which would impact farmers. Farmers cannot sell and exchange and keep their seeds if they are part of that OPOV 91. Whatever they were doing culturally for thousands of years, they cannot do now. And that in the name of progress and development, in the name of productivity, which is totally false, And also the international institutions like IMF, World Bank, European Union, and some other agreements, bilateral agreements reinforce that. And we had our own framework, which is called the African Model Law on plant variety protection and farmers' rights. And that was the outcome of really, really great Africans like Dr. Tolde and Ekpere and others, which is now, as I speak, is totally forgotten. It is totally forgotten. It's not even referenced when seed laws and seed regulations are developed by Africa. But after that, I could see, for example, I was invited today to speak at an event, and one of the list on that was, "Can you speak on African model law?" Probably the institution that is inviting me has listened to this and has listened to the significance. I suspect, but I
Yeah.
cannot say in 100% surety that this is what has happened. So this podcast, so on issues like seeds and the threats on the seed that we have. What was the impact of the colonialism on GMOs? What are the issues, and why should we reject GMOs actually from the point of knowledge? And on top of that, what I'm doing also, for example, there was Afsa has organized a convening for chefs.
Yeah.
So there was a number of chefs that I met who impressed me. So I asked them about. I participated in the cross border trade quite recently, and the agenda is very much important. So I interviewed 2, 3 people there. So it has become a practice for me to go to these critical meetings and do interviews, so that we as an organization have this knowledge product, So
Yeah.
means where people can go and listen, have an understanding.
Yeah.
What we are hoping, what we hope to do in the future is also change this podcast into written materials also for understanding, and also organize clips, for distribution
Mm.
in what is TikTok or something. So we, in terms of communicating this knowledge that we have, the knowledge bank that we have to work much more.
One thing that I want to get your insights about is, why do you want to classify the issues? The first part was focused on UPOV, as you said, and there are the other group is also
Colonialism,
foc yeah.
because I want to get in depth. For example, on GMOs, there are perspectives. I had an interview with Michael Anthony from the
Mm.
UK. He's not against genetic engineering. He is against genetic engineering on plants. He is an engineer himself. He genetically proteins to produce something for human health in a very contained environment. But he's against genetic engineering on plants and releasing them to the environment. He has a logic. So this is a scientist, a genetic engineer, but against genetic engineering on plants and crops and whatever.
Mm.
And I have somebody who has worked with the Mexican government. The Mexican government constituted the protection of Mexican maize, in the constitution. Now it is there, so you cannot tamper with that gene because it's a cultural and a heritage of the country. So what was that process? How did they do it in Wariba? Anne was fighting with her government on GMOs,
Mm.
the advocacy side. She brings the advocacy side, And
Mariam.
Maria
Mar-
Mayet
yeah.
was fighting for so many years with the South African government. And she understands also the science and the bigger extractivism and the geopolitical environment around GE. So her interview is very much important.
Yeah.
So, and all of them are coming from a different angle on an issue, and that will help us to understand the issue
The issue more, yeah,
much more.
from different perspective.
from the different perspectives.
Yeah.
That's it. The first four interviews on Upov, they all talk about Upov, but they come from different angles, you know?
Yeah. I see. Yeah.
So that would help you to explore, to get deeper into the issue. That getting in depth in an issue is very much important. Colonialism and agriculture. And I had two interviews with his name on. He wrote a book on decolonizing African agriculture. Yeah, he wrote a book on decolonizing African agriculture, and he was working with the USA, the World Bank, and a number of international institutions. And he did a study, anthropological and scientific study, on why Africa is where it is now. And he said that the future is agroecology. After all that study, we have to listen to this kind of people. Some people say that, oh, you are asking only white people, you know. They make the issue like a color issue. Now, I'm color blind, as you know. You know, this is not the issue of black and white. What is happening is affecting everybody. And also, if I think that somebody gives us very, very good angle on an issue, now bring them. Stasi, for example, Stasi
Stacy Malcolm from Right to Know.
knows about what the industry is doing to promote GMOs and how they are corrupting the media, you know, to
Mm.
promote GMOs and what they are doing. She knows the issue. So it's very much critical that we bring in people who know, so that we
Yeah.
know as Africa what's happening, and instead of focusing on this, color,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I had a fantastic interview with the father of Ed Mukubi. Eddie
Hmm.
is now the head of Slow Food.
Slow food.
Slow Food. I had planned an interview with Eddie himself, but I have a fantastic interview with his father,
Yeah.
who was working with government for a long time, but now he's a farmer, an agricultural farmer. So it
Yeah.
brings the perspective of government being a government, being an extension agent, but now being a farmer. You see, so we do have to bring these people in and explore an issue.
Yeah.
That's what
S-
matters. That's what.
Yeah. It sounds like a melting pot of very diverse ideas. At the end of the day, we're discussing about Africa. People can come from wherever they are, but
Yeah,
their issues, their concern is African, and we're speaking
yeah,
about African cases, African
yeah,
realities and solutions. So
yeah,
yeah, okay, I hope people who are listening this would go to our YouTube channel,
yeah.
the Battle
Definitely,
for
yeah.
African Agriculture, and subscribe and start
Like,
listening. We will be releasing each episode every Friday now. So every Friday there will be new episode will be dropped and ready to listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. Maybe finally, Million, we have been discussing a lot of things in two parts now, since from the very beginning to all the things you have done in Ethiopia while you are the director of Melka, then the founding of Afsa, and all the working group activities, some of the things that we've been doing in Afsa, including the podcast. But for you, I know you're still young, you're still, impacting, influencing. You're not tired every day, full of energy. Maybe the question is, what makes you do the things you do? One, and, how do you want to be remembered? What do you want your legacy to be?
I don't know whether anybody can control how they can be remembered. People have their own way of seeing you. Yeah, I was reading what the previous staff of Afsa were writing in the Facebook now. This about me also and my previous students. Everybody have their own story about you.
Mm,
Thing is, I think I try to do what I think is the right thing, and for this continent in my country also. Yeah, and I cannot say that whatever as I have managed to make happen, I did make it happen with a number of people. It was really, I cannot even list the number of people on which shoulder that I'm standing now.
mm,
Really, from the beginning up to now, if you had asked me about the people,
mm.
critical people, I could have mentioned a number of them.
Yeah.
They're very, very critical people. And I worked with a number of people. So, as the coordinator of this organization, only my responsibility is to remove every block that is on your way so
Mm.
that you become much better, in working. So, I don't know whether I'm answering your question.
And now you tried. I mean, it's a
It's a
very
very difficult question.
humble way of speaking about a legacy, but I can understand where you're coming from. To be honest,
Yeah.
as I've said, that's exactly what I feel. It's not one person or one working group, but it's a
Oh,
family
yeah, I see.
that's working for one big cause. We are part of the struggle, and I'm happy that you are leading with passion, with interest, with all the qualities that you have. And I'm really, really happy that you even took this time to have a discussion. So thank you, Million. If there is anything left, the Million is a very open and reachable person. You can always reach out to him, listen up, subscribe to his podcast, and we can conclude here. Thank you so much, Million.
Thank you. Thank you, Kirubel. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.